You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Training course called Silverback.
Before you be jumping on that.
Yeah, and so it just blows my mind. So I really do appreciate you coming on the show, and we want to tell everybody about you a little bit, So
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so let's do that. Okay, so I know that I'd like to know how you even found us, how you got into our training courses.
Well, your training courses, I enlisted in the Marines early on when I was younger. So back in the day, we're always deployed in the Marines. And then I got on the embassy duties. And do you remember Bill Phillips' Muscle Media 2000?
Yeah.
And then so they had all these advertisements. It was kind of a no holds barred magazine at the time. It's really cutting edge. And it was kind of talking about all the taboo stuff that bodybuilding had.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating. I saw an ad for it, Big Beyond Belief. And then I saw your name and you and Tom Platz. I was like, because I was always searching for that perfect program, especially as a young Marine. I was always an athlete when I was younger. So I was always looking for that bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
And I remember I was going up the steps one day and we had a captain behind me. He goes, Sergeant Vernon, he goes, "You're a big boy up top, but your legs are small." And I took that personal, So, when you're an A-type personality, you're like, I'm taking this personal.
Yeah.
So I was always looking for programs. So I saw your program in the magazine. I was like, let me order it. So back then I ordered the book. I was in Vienna, Austria at the time. So it was a great environment for lifting overseas, and followed the 6-day protocol because you had the 4-day, the 6-day, and the 2-a-days.
Yeah.
And I read it from front to back, and I knew specifically what would fit with my schedule for working at the embassy at the time. And so I did the 6-day protocol and saw incredible growth in my legs, and that's what really sparked my interest.
I'll be darned. It's amazing how you do find certain things. I mean, I'm the same way. It's like all of a sudden I get into I stumbled upon something and it turns out to be even more. Did you ever see any of our earlier stuff like Bulgarian Burst or Serious Growth?
Yeah, I did notice that stuff till later on. I was able to pick some of it. Yeah. But I was really intrigued on how you came upon that and how you got invited to Bulgaria behind the Iron Curtain, because that method, a lot of people will argue against it, pros and cons, but I had phenomenal results when I followed it to the T.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that. I seriously mean that.
Yeah. And the thing about that is, and we warned people in some of our ads that we ran, they said, don't be surprised if people don't start accusing you of being on drugs, because, it was pretty life-changing, man. I mean, to be there in the East Bloc. And what I found really interesting is that, they really focused on Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
And maybe you've heard the story on maybe something I said, but they had all this information about how they thought that a bodybuilder should train. The only reason why they didn't focus on that is because during those days in the 80s, them being in a communistic, socialistic type society, the way that they would brag to the rest of the world was through Olympic lifting. It had more of that star power, if you will.
Yeah.
But yet they had all this information in the way you should train as a bodybuilder as well.
That's amazing how you translated that over from the Olympic lifting to bodybuilding, because my lagging leg parts, I thought was my legs, but it ended up being one of my best body parts. When you covered the endurance phase of the program, hit the strength, and then the hypertrophy phases, all 3 phases, and hitting all 3 phases, you think you might overtrain or something, but within an hour, you're in and out of the gym and you hit it hard.
And that was one of the things I was just talking to. In fact, Charlie, he's the guy that produces the show along with Fredo. But over the years, we heard that a lot. You're overtraining. Yeah. But what the Bulgarians taught us, they said, if you keep it between 30 and 45 minutes, it's virtually impossible to overtrain the physiology. And of course, when I first started, before I took that trip, hell, we were in the gym an hour and a half, 2 hours, and got some guys were even longer than that. Of course you can't. It's hard to recover from that, And,
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and then to change that to where you're only doing 30 to 45 minutes, I'm thinking, there's no way I can get this done in that amount of time. So it's just interesting how that worked out.
Yeah, it's interesting how you said that, because I remember the initial phase, the break-in phase, and doing that for a few weeks. I was like, am I getting enough? Am I getting enough training? But within the 3rd week, it really hit me. Yeah. I was sore. And like you said, when you started comparing compound exercises to isolation exercises, that exercise selection was a big deal. And that's, I stuck with the squats as main lifts, Yeah.
No, it was pretty amazing. And of course, the first training course that we came out, Bulgarian burst. And again, keep in mind, I always talk about that one of the most important things, at least when it comes to training, but I think it applies in life, in a lot of walks of life, is you have to figure out and have a stated goal. Instead of just going willy-nilly and not having a stated goal. And the stated goal back then was for us to create a workout program that put on as much muscle as humanly possible. That was the goal. We don't worry about that. We have people training 3 times a day. I don't know if you. The Bulgarian burst is like, you talk about people really. I mean, we were going against the grain when we did that.
Yeah, because it's going against everything you were taught.
Exactly, but we didn't care. We said, this is what if the stated goal is to put on as much mass as possible, here's what you have to do. You got to figure that part of it out yourself. It kind of was our stance on that.
No, that's interesting. Yeah. And I think the consistency of things, when you follow the program to the T and you put in the consistent results.
Yeah.
And like nowadays, you don't see people doing the consistency because they're always like, oh, I'm failing in this aspect of training. And as you know, it's usually diet, the lifts or the cardio. There's somewhere in the 3-tier pyramid that they fail somewhere. Yeah.
In fact, I built I have studios, I used to have a bunch of studios for personal training, but one of the things I always had as a foundation is what you're talking about, the 3 training components. Those are the components that are responsible for doing whatever you want to do, whether it's building endurance, strength, or power, athletics, those things are always there. And you're right about that. And so many people leave 1 or 2 of them out.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny through the years because, like I was in the Marines and did a lot of law enforcement and work specialized programs. And so we always had physical fitness tests and you wanted show and go. Why do we work out? We want to look good.
Sure.
But we also want to be able to perform. And it's funny, you get all these different programs and you're real skeptical, but many of them are, you can take them or leave them. But like your programs really helped in the strength aspect, but correlated over to cardio and other ventures as well, which is what I liked about it.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's always been a point of contention, which I kind of like, is that what is the best way to put on muscle? And of course, you ask people, especially back in the 80s, it was always about lifting more weight than it was doing more reps, And when I was in the East Block, they said that's absolutely not true. They said not that they're not, the strength and the volume type of conditioning, that they're close with each other. But when you're lifting for strength, the number one result that you're going to get from that is to get stronger, with the secondary benefit getting bigger.
Yeah.
And so the opposite is the same. Doing more volume, you're going to get stronger. But volume, putting on muscle, is the first thing you're going to get from that.
Yeah, and that program really showed that, especially like it got to a point in the program where the endurance phase where I could do 350 for 20 reps. It was no problem at the time, and then I could go up. I even got up to the 5s at one point, almost 6s,
How long you been a Marine?
I was a Marine for 8 years, active duty, and then got out before 9/11, and then I went back in 9/11 for reserve duty.
Okay.
So a long time. And then I worked with the Department of Energy as a nuclear materials carrier. So I was a special agent for them. I worked for Immigration's Custom Enforcement. I was on their special response team as well.
Yeah.
And then I got on a special classified program where I did a high threat protection overseas. I did that for over a decade. And that was really interesting work because it put me in all ports of the Middle East, all over the world, really sensitive areas.
Yeah.
Do protection for people going out, collecting information. So that was a really unique job. And then unfortunately enough, in North Carolina now, I'm the director of the emergency services at a DOD base here.
So you're still involved in it to some degree.
Yes, I am. Yeah. And then I can retire in a couple of years. So I definitely, my goal is to open a gym. I just want to do what my passion is.
Yeah.
So, that's still on the burner there.
Would you say that being a Marine or getting into the Marines, because I find it really interesting that someone goes down that path, because I couldn't ever see myself doing that. And I'm amazed by their, and by the way, thank you for your service, but I'm amazed when people take the military path. What drove you that you wanted to, get in the military and specifically in the Marine Corps? All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new Trs Gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
It's funny you say that, Leo, because it's a funny story. It's totally opposite than what you think. But so, I went to high school and I grew up in New Jersey, and it was a middle class area, but there wasn't a lot going on. It's kind of like, idle hands is the devil's playground type thing.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad was very well educated. My brothers went to college. And so I assumed I was going to go to college. So, my studies were good, but they weren't that great. And I was, an athlete as well. And then, so I just went to community college because I just wasn't real interested in everything. So I started going to community college, and I just didn't like it at the time. I just wasn't mature enough at the time. So I just started working full time. I was working at a nursing home as basically a kitchen help there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was getting a little bit of trouble too. You know the old deal.
Oh,
like
yeah.
When you're younger, getting a little trouble there. And I remember my dad saying to me, tongue in cheek, he's like, Steve, he goes, maybe you should join the military. He goes, you aren't, you're getting into trouble here. And he said it in tongue in cheek, but it stuck in the back of my mind. I remember I was on the dish machine, washing dishes at this nursing home for the restaurant there. And I was like, you know what, maybe he's right, because I was mature enough to realize I needed direction in my life, because I had none at that point. I had no clue what I wanted to do. Typical kid, usually.
Sure.
So at lunch break, Leo, I actually put down the apron, went to a local recruiter. And of course, no one's there. It's lunchtime, except the Marines. And I remember this guy was out there. He's carving an apple. He has a big Desert Storm tattoo. I'm like, man, the Marines are tough. I was like, I'm going to join them because they have a tough reputation. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Didn't come from a family background. So I go up to the Marine. I'm like, hey, sir, can I join? He goes, what do you mean? I said, yeah, I just want to sign up. Can you sign me up? He goes, you're the easiest sale I had yet. Come on in, And then 2 weeks later, I was down in Paris Island there. And I'll tell you what, that was the real catalyst that changed my life right there. So it was extremely important. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today without that background, the chance encounter. So I was lucky my father said that, and it resonated with me. So
yeah. I think we all go through in our lifetime, I think we have that moment, it almost reminds me in a way, I compare things a lot to athletics. It's always been in my life since I was 8 years of age. And there's some lessons to be learned through athletics, I think, just like being in a Marine,
Oh, yeah.
But it's just like being on a team that takes a while before they gel. You have that moment where like who you are, and it gives you that foundation. Would you agree to that?
No, I completely agree. And then like growing up, I always played 3 sports. I played football, I wrestled, and then I also played baseball. And I came from a wrestling family. So as you know, wrestling, they have that mental toughness to begin with. So like I always had that mental toughness, like workouts never bothered me. I actually enjoyed, doing pull-ups, doing various things. And so that kind of sparked my foundation, but I just needed something more to actually get me going and pushing.
Yeah. And, bodybuilding was that for me. I mean, again, athletics was that. It had that, you had to be dedicated to get up and go practice. And you had to learn how to be consistent on a regular basis instead of inconsistent. I mean, they're just things that you learn, which I assume being in the Marines, I'm sure you learned that pretty damn quick, right?
Yeah, you learn that real quick. And like you said, physical fitness, as you know, that's their backbone there. So unless you're in physical shape, they don't even want you. So you're always competing to be that physical toughness. And I remember we went out on ship is when Somalia happened and Bosnia we kicked off.
Yeah.
And I was out what they call Marine Expeditionary Unit. It's a MU. And it's basically being in prison, but on ship,
Yeah.
So we hit the field. And that's when I really started weightlifting. I mean, we got Muscle and Fitness delivered, by mail back then.
Yeah.
And we would read that from front to back. And as you know, at that age, you're super hungry, burning calories. I remember getting the Joe Weider bags. Remember the was it Mega Mass 2000?
Yeah.
And we would eat our 3 squares on that and then drink a 2,000 calorie shake and just hit the weights. And that's all we did for a 6-month deployment, in between going to the field and going to Somalia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what really started the kick, and really got the bug.
Yeah. Well, you kind of remind me of myself when I was learning, because back when I started, there wasn't like all the social media and YouTube. There wasn't that, so I had to learn from which I think is the best way in many times is learning through your own experiences. And but you have to have that bug that you're talking about, that passion, because there's a long learning curve when especially like if you take it to a level where I was competing, to get your body to look right on stage, by no means does it just happen. I mean, you have guys out there that are freaks of nature, but for the most part, it takes a lot of damn work and a lot of failing before you actually can get that. So if you don't have that to begin with, you're not going to last very long, right?
No, it's very frustrating too if you don't have that tenacity to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I wish, because back then we didn't have the social media and I really didn't have someone to guide me for the contest phase, because I love bodybuilding. I wanted to compete, but I really had no mentors to show me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't later on until 2013 I did my first contest.
Oh, okay. So you did end up competing then?
Yeah. So I still compete right now. I did the men's classic physique with MPC.
Nice.
I did bodybuilding as well, but I know my frame is it fits better in classic physique.
Oh yeah. Well, you're lucky because obviously back then there was none of these other categories, so you were kind of stuck to some degree.
No, you are. And then was my second bodybuilding show. I did bodybuilding and classic physique. And then I remember I took second in the open in bodybuilding, but the guy that beat me, his stature very short, just tremendous amount of muscle on him. I was like, when I was maybe 20 years younger, I could compete with that, but it's just tough as you get older.
Well, and I think what it ended up happening. I mean, there was a part of me that when I retired when I was like 40 years of age or something like that, I took a 13-year layoff. I think it was 37 or 4. Anyway, the point is, when I came back and competed again, I couldn't believe the categories that they had. Because when I did it, it was mixed doubles and just straight bodybuilding. But you know what? For the sport, I think it actually made it a lot more commercial and a lot more acceptable to a bigger group of people.
Yeah, you're definitely right, because it seemed like it was kind of an underground sport for a long time.
Yeah.
And creating those new divisions, it got people out of the gym and said, "Hey, I can do a physique or bikini, prep," and then so. It was smart on the NPC side where they could actually make a lot more money, and then it got more people involved, which I think is a good thing in that aspect.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I couldn't believe it. Like it's so many more competitors when I came back. It's like I get it. There's a part of me that was old school. I'm stubborn that way, and it changed.
Yeah, which is good though.
Yeah, it's good, but it's just hard to change it for most people. But I thought overall it was a good thing that happened. But, one of the things, going back to, talking about being frustrated, one of the things that I was really frustrated with was just, depending on, this is like in the first maybe 5 or 6 years when I was in it, depending on what you were reading and who you were talking to, if you talked to 5 different people, you'd get 5 different answers for the same question, So,
you're absolutely right,
yeah. So obviously there was a part of you that just had to figure it out by going through it, But I'll never forget this one time. I'm in it about maybe 8 years now, and I'm pretty strong. And I was training, locally here. I'm about 200 miles from L.A., Santa Monica, and Venice, the Mecca.
The Mecca,
yeah. So I'm reading these magazines, and I'm, basing my workouts off this before I started in the industry, writing training courses. And I told myself, I go, you know what? I have to take a trip down there. Because I just can't believe that they're that much stronger than I am. And these photos that they're taking, that was a wake-up call. I got to tell you something. I went down there, and here's what I learned, is that the guys that were training down there in these photo shoots, they were using fake weights to do the photo shoot.
Are you serious? Back then?
Oh, I'm dead serious. Because years later, I went down there and did a photo shoot, with
Yeah.
Tom Platts at Gold's Gym.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we go down. Artie Zeller, have you heard of that guy? He was
Yeah, I've heard of
a famous photographer.
Yeah.
So I'm getting there, and I was very nervous because, you know, to be around back there, the environment in Gold's Gym was a real legit environment. A lot of the pros were there.
Super intense working out.
Yes, the training atmosphere compared to now, years later.
Watch some of the old videos of you and Tom going at it.
Yeah, it was like that, you know, crazy stuff like that. So we go in there to do this photo shoot, and they start running fake weights out of the back room. I mean, dumbbells for 150 pounds. They were carrying like this, you know, just with two fingers out.
Yeah.
They had 45-pound weights that were fake weights. So I learned a lot about that, you know. So what you see, in other words, is not necessarily what they're doing.
What's really going on? Yeah.
What's really going on. And then as I dug deeper into, as I got to know more of the guys, for example, guys like Dorian Yates, Mike Mincer, you remember him?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, heavy duty. Well, that was their brand. But when you really took a look at their complete program that they did, they were doing volume training, but yet you would think that they were doing all that strength training, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
People off. Yeah.
And I got it. I finally understood. But no, I always thought, well, I know it's an industry that you got to make money in, but to the guy that's a rookie and just learning, it can be dangerous because I was pushing weights that I probably shouldn't have been pushing.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's what we did in, you know, the early 90s. We were pushing as heavy as we could. And then we were following diets of course, with high amounts of gear.
Yeah.
We're following those same diets and wondering why we weren't getting ripped like they were, you know, and until later on, you know, started getting exposed to different things. You started to understand, you know. Or
even potentially exposing yourself to getting hurt really bad.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it was dangerous that way, you know, and I think that just kind of spurred us on to, you know, once we got back from, I got back from the East Block, it was not only was it to you know, teach somebody how to do this, put on as much muscle as possible, but do it in a way that you wouldn't hurt yourself or limit that exposure. I mean, you always have that, you know, when you're training like that, but just sort of limit that, you know? So
yeah, it makes sense. Like you said, there's shorter time in the gym, so you're taking and getting out. And then I just couldn't get over like the size of my quads, how much I grew, you know, just from doing that program. And then the rest of the body followed in suit. And then of course you do some, you know, extra, I guess, complement exercises to build on it and stuff.
Yeah. And then we had these specialization routines that we would do, you know, to keep balancing your body. So it's pretty well thought out, I thought, you know. Dr. Horine was, you know, he's my partner in that deal. He was like, you know, the relationship was, he was kind of more like the nerd, if you will. He's very analytical. And I was kind of the front guy who just, you know, told me to go run up against the wall and I'll do that. Yeah. So we made a good team. And Russ, he also competed as well. So that was our relationship. I was the front guy, but he was the guy behind the scenes, you know, making some really interesting choices based on, like you said, taking that information from the East and putting that into what would be specific to the bodybuilder.
Yeah, that's phenomenal because then you also laid out the nutrition plan, because that's, I think, where a lot of people get off on it, because you get in the gym, it's pretty easy to pick up and learn how to, you know, workouts and do different routines. But the nutrition's a factor, portion control, you know, what you need to fuel in your body, timing. And you laid that out with, you know, the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 calories and so on. And so it fit right in your macros. And that was the first time a light bulb went on with me where I realized, hey, I really need to watch, you know, my portions and what I'm consuming, you know, my body weight. And I think that was the first time I really started learning the catalyst of everything. Yeah.
When you, let's talk about like the first time that you got ready for a competition. Now, at this point, besides the training course, I assume that you were using, but did you have anybody guiding you through that process of, you know, off season compared to the pre-contesting?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So I was in Pakistan at the time there for work, you know, and then I was always buying manuals and looking at different workout routines. I've tried everything. You name it, Leo, I tried it. You know, because I was always searching for that holy grail. Like any fitness, you know? Yeah. And I just love fitness anyway. So I'm in Pakistan, and I remember I'm in this pod and I'm on the internet on my off time there. And so I'm surfing around, and usually after my trips, I'll go on vacation with the wife. And then I was like, you know, this vacation, I want a 6-pack, you know, early 30, you know.
Stated goal.
Yeah, just a standard goal. And then so I was like, I know what to do, but I need to be accountable with someone. That's the big thing, being accountable. So I went online, searched for an online trainer, and I was fortunate enough to find Nikki Johnston. She works for Athena Fitness Solutions right now. She used to be with Team Warrior Within, but long and the short, I sent a note to her husband at the time, and then he was filled, and he put me off to her. And at first, I'm like, how does a female want to help me? She doesn't understand the male anatomy. But long and short, she was a phenomenal coach, and that was the start of our friendship there. So I became a client there, and then on the trip, she sent me the diet plan, the workouts, and then it was just consistency and being accountable to someone. I reported every week, send pictures. And she's brutally honest. If I had a little back fat or something like that, she was calling me out on that. You know?
Yeah.
And then from there, I got the six pack. I was ready for vacation because she did it like a competition prep.
Yeah.
And then she goes, 2 more months, maybe you could go on stage. And in my head, because I'm a very A-type personality, it's like 2 more months. I thought I was ready now, So but I like that because she's beautiful, really honest there. Yeah. And then so went on vacation, and then just stuck. And the bug kind of came back because the ebbs and flows, as you know, in your bodybuilding career. Sometimes you really love it, and then there's times in your life where kind of declines a little bit. Yeah. So it got me back into the iron game there too. And then she competed, and so her husband. I was like, let me give it a try. So at the time, I didn't have as much muscle as I did in my 20s and stuff. So I did the men's physique, but I didn't like that. I got first call out, but I ended up placing 6th. And then, because they didn't have any masters at the time, and I was in my mid to late 30s, and I was a little frustrated. So I wanted to go into bodybuilding. So she actually did a full off season and worked with me. And then that's when Classic Physique opened up. I think it was 2017 or 18. Yeah. And then just went into it from there. And then, so like you said, we had the true off season, put on the weight, eating the calories, and get in the gym and hit it hard again. So I've been doing that ever since. And we're at the point where she knows my body very well, and it's good to find a trainer that actually compliments you. Yeah.
Now I assume that you were training from afar with her. Is that right?
That's correct?
Online training. I find that very interesting. Because I was used to this having that hands-on.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
And it's really changed that way. I mean, a lot of people are working online, and they're getting results with that. So it sounds like you really, you matched up with somebody that. Of course, look, without your dedication, it doesn't work. She can be the best coach in the world, but you got to be there too.
No, you're absolutely right, because she's not there watching me after hours. If I run to the cupboard to throw some cookies in and stuff like that. So it comes at, which is my weakness, but that comes with self-discipline. And I think, I think wrestling, because I remember I was cutting weight in junior high and even elementary school, cutting weight for wrestling. I had that discipline. I didn't know how to do it properly, but I had that discipline at a young age to cut weight and make weight as a wrestler. Yeah. And, after going in the Marines, I had a very, strict mindset. So like you said, you have to have the right comparison, and you have to be truly accountable, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're cheating, if you're not doing the work, you're only cheating yourself. You're not getting away with anything, not really. But, I think that you were really lucky to be a wrestler, because you're already used to, for me, and I think it's for the most part, I think the diet aspect of the 3 components, especially when it gets down to you getting up on stage, I think that's the real deal breaker for a lot of people,
You're absolutely right.
I mean, I love to eat, and I'll never forget the first competition I did. I was so damn hungry all the time. I couldn't stand myself. I was grouchy as hell. Yeah. And I used to tell my wife at the time, I said, I have to go walk, and I don't like walking that much. But I have to go because I'm a nightmare. All I'm thinking about is food.
Yeah. I call the food porn. You're on the line.
Yeah. I never forget. This is crazy, but I never forget when I was at that close to a show.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. I'd be driving on a freeway, and there'd be an ad, like a billboard, like a Carl's Jr. with fries. My mouth would start watering so badly. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, is that crazy?
It drove me nuts. But I'll tell you what, after that first show, and being able to learn that I could tolerate that, it changed things for me, that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny you say that too, because if you cheat, that will make a difference between first or second. Because when I first started doing the Classic Physique, I lived in Mexico City. So it's a very unique place to live and actually train. And I realized that, hey, if I'm going to step on stage, the conditioning can win certain aspects. And that really did, like I said, it placed me higher. I was always getting first or second just because of my conditioning took me to that level. I might not have the max muscle, but I was conditioned to the bone, Yeah.
One of the things that I did, I made sure I always, because look, we're human beings, we're going to slip. And it's, so, first you have to understand that, because I deal with a lot of clientele that are more for fitness, and I share the experiences from my sport. And I tell them, because some people, when they slip, then they go off the deep edge and they go on this run where they're eating, you know what I mean? They can't pull themselves out of it.
They're just doing a deep binge and they're like, oh, I'm messed up, so let me just keep at it.
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. So one of the things I always did with myself, I still do it today, is I made sure that if I slipped, I held myself accountable immediately. So, and the way that I did that is I just do extra cardio. If I slipped 200 or 300 calories, I made it up ASAP.
Yeah, it's funny. I do the same thing as well,
Yeah, and I've gotten used to that. And I tell people, look, this isn't fun all the time. In fact, you struggle. You made a mention that sometimes your motivation declines.
Yep.
And something, when the motivation is gone, because it will be gone.
Yeah.
You have to have that discipline, ironclad discipline that carries you through, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's weird. And I'm sure you've seen it when you're competing as well. Like, once you get to that 8 weeks out, you really get focused, almost to the point where people could hold donuts in front of you or whatever, and you won't look at it because you're so focused on the final outcome,
That's right.
And like right now, I'm 10 weeks out, so because I'm doing the East Coast Classic in Baltimore, and I'm very focused right now. It's like, my determination's there, and nothing's going to stop me, which, because I know at the end, the big reward is a cheat meal or something like that.
That's right. When I was, I had gotten to a point, this is how I met Tom Platz. After we did our first training course in Serious Growth, we wrote Serious Growth on Big Beyond Belief. We decided to bring somebody that was a big name on to help promote it. That's when Tom came on. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So Tom started working with me. I got to know him. The guy was a legit guy. I met him in Germany when they were doing they had these FIBOs. Have you heard of FIBOs?
Oh, FIBO, the expos.
Yeah, those expos. And so the real quick story is, all I knew is that I wanted to meet Tom Platz, and anybody and everybody, as you might guess, especially back then, were at these FIBOs.
Yeah.
I just bought a ticket unwittingly and just said, I'm just going to get on a damn plane and go to Germany. I didn't have like no
game plan.
None at all. No. So I get on the plane. There are 5 pros on the plane.
Yeah.
Platz isn't one of them, but there are 5 pros. So I had these guys' ear for 10 hours,
Oh, they must have loved you, Lee.
Yes. By the time I got to Germany, I'd met them all.
Yeah.
But guess who picks these pros up? That's right, Mr. Tom Platz.
Mr. Tom Platz. Oh, that's awesome.
I am like this straggler that's just following behind these guys because I didn't know where the hell I was going.
Yeah, what did you think of his legs when you first saw him?
Yeah. So he's the guy that picked these guys up. He looked over at me and goes, "Hey, you need a ride somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, I do." "Where are you going?" He said, "We're taking him to the hotel." That's how I met Tom Platz.
Oh, that's incredible.
And he was so personable back then, because he really is. He goes, "So what are you here for?" Blah, blah, blah. "Well, I'm here for the event." He goes, "Well, you have a ticket?" I said, "No, I was going to buy one at the door." "Well, you can't buy one at the door. It's not like that,
Yeah.
And so Tom just said, "I'll get you in." That's how I met Tom. That's how our relationship started. At the end of that FIBO, I told Tom, "I want you to come on and I'd like you to work with us on this next project." He was involved with Vince McMahon in the WBF, I think, World Bodybuilding Federation.
Yeah.
And he said,
I remember when that kicked off.
Yeah. And he said, "After this is over, I'm under contract. I'm gonna look you up." I thought, well, that's a nice way of saying, see ya.
Yeah, thanks for seeing you. Yeah.
The minute he was off that contract, he got back with me, and that's how our relationship started.
That's phenomenal. Just out of curiosity, because he has a very intense training regimen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you guys mesh like that? Because it's like you see some of the old videos of you guys on YouTube, and it's incredible seeing the synergy going, just listening to each other, and then you miss that in a partner.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, here's what I learned about Tom Platz. I'm a very competitive person. Okay. That's something that I am. I'm brutally competitive. That's and of course, Tom, here's our first training session, if you don't mind me telling the story.
No.
We're in Gold's Gym, Venice. We walk in, Tom walks in, we're doing legs. And he walks in and goes, "I'm not feeling too good today. I'm just not feeling it," kind of like that. Yeah. So meanwhile, while he's saying that, he loads up 315 on the squat rack, right? And he's doing all that. Yeah, and he's doing all this, I don't know really that much, about that situation and that environment with him.
Yeah.
Well, he cranks out 25 reps. So I thought, okay, I know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm in Gold's gym. And I'm not going to get, I don't want to show him up, but I don't want to look like a fool.
Yeah,
so
the motivation's high, right?
Yeah. So I cranked out 28 reps and it just went from there.
Are you serious? That's awesome. Yeah.
That was the first set. And we did 3 or 4 sets like that, and it didn't get better. Let me tell you, man, he was a beast. And he had this, as I learned Tom Platz, he had this, there's a light that switched off in his eyes.
Yeah.
Scary. It was cold.
Yeah.
It was intense. I've never been afraid and concerned about training, but I was every time I went. It was war with him.
Yeah, probably that little pucker factor kicked in the stomach there,
Yeah, bigger than that. It was scary, man. I'll tell you what, the guy is as intense as he came off to be. He really was.
And that's crazy because that mindset, and that shows the pro level to amateur level. When you start taking to that other level, I think a lot of people don't understand that leap to go that next level. It's just like you said, it's another dimension almost.
Totally. And if you're not all in, and if you're not focused, you're going to get it packed pretty hard.
Yeah, when I was a young Marine in Vienna, Austria, like I said, that's when I had your book and all, and we went to this phenomenal gym out there. It's called Top Gym. It's still out there today. One of the best gyms in the world. And the guys in there is probably like the Gold's time. These guys were huge. Andre Munzer used to go.
Oh yeah. I remember that guy.
Yeah, Roland Kickinger. I don't know if you remember him as well. He's kind of supposed to be the Arnold lookalike, but they had all these guys come in and visit. And these guys were just huge, and just seeing them just go at it, hitting the smelling salts. Actually doing 200-pound dumbbells.
Oh yeah.
It was intense. And then talking to a few of the pros over there, later on, they're like, I'm eating 10,000 calories a day. It's like these guys are animals,
Yeah, it was something else, man.
Yeah.
It really was.
It's an eye opener,
Oh yeah. In fact, somebody commented on as a guy from Kuwait. That has reached out to me, and I have, I sell him some supplements. But anyway, he said that he was in Gold's Gym during the time that Tom and I were doing those workouts. Here's what I didn't know, because I was in this mode of, I just want to live through this. And so I don't know what the hell's going on around me. But he said when Tom and I were training, he said the whole gym stopped. Everybody just they were in shock as to what was going on. I had no idea.
I can only imagine the intensity, going in that time,
It was awful, but I loved it. You know what I mean? That's the sick part of it, I guess. I just loved it, but it was awful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, bodybuilding, that's what you love, because it takes you to another place that you wouldn't be able to go without being pushed, Oh
my goodness, you were talking about the diet. Here's one of the things that Tom Platz brought to me, because I told him, I said, look, I've gotten as far as I can go with my experiences. I'd like you to train me. I was nervous about asking him, and he said he would. So Tom, I'll never forget it. I'm like about I don't know, I think I'm about 4 weeks out from the show. Tom had me down to 1,000 calories, training my ass off. I kid you not, and I'm not exaggerating. I thought at one point I was dying. In fact, I was at my gym. I thought, I got to go home. I don't feel right. I think I'm dying. I was just like at that point. That moment was the moment where all of a sudden I knew that I was going to make it. I didn't have to eat. In fact, I had to force myself to eat 1,000 calories. I broke through some plane, and that's what it took for me to get to the beginning of that next level. Let's take a quick pause to tell you about something you are definitely going to want.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're going to get one with the amazing new Trs Gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian power burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
That's crazy. You almost have to suffer to get to another level.
A big suffer, and that's one of the things I learned from Tom. And look, I don't know about you, but there's always a certain amount of danger when you do a sport like bodybuilding, because it's, at least when I was doing it, it was based on extreme behavior. And lot of it.
Right. Yeah.
We're on that edge. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's like I was always constantly pushing the heavy squats, pushing it. Even now, like I'm older, but I get a little nervous because I'm still pushing heavy dumbbells as much as I can. If I feel bad, I listen to my body a little bit more as I'm older.
Yeah.
But I'm still pushing myself to that level. And like you said, in the back of your mind, you know that, hey, a pec could go or a bicep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you always want to make sure you're ready. But yeah, that gets scary.
But that's where you have to play in order to play in that environment. That's the way it goes. You're teetering, and that was another thing that Tom really taught me about coming in. He says so many athletes, when they come in, when they're dieting, they're in such a mindset that they think, I just want to tweak it a little bit more. And he says that what ends up happening, they crash land in the competition. I did that more than one time because of that mindset.
Yeah.
So it can hurt you,
Yeah, you're right. It gets scary too, as you know, like that week out or the peak week, as you know.
Yeah.
You tweak certain things. I always say stick with the tour, listen to your trainer, trust the process.
Right.
And if you aren't trusting that process or in your trainer, that's where things can go wrong. Because I know in the back of my mind, like, well, I should maybe tweak this or up this or, and then, but long term, just stick with the tour, I always say, and things will work out.
And the one thing that turned me around, and it's because of Tom. He said, think of it this way. Think of it as an airplane coming in for a smooth landing.
Yeah.
That's what you want to think about when you're coming into that show. And that was exactly the opposite of what most of us were doing, because of that mindset. I want to tweak it. And then you lose it because, as you know, in that last week, all the work that you've done in that pre-contest and off season goes to hell right there in that last week. Would you agree with that?
No, you're absolutely right. Because like you said, if you just, carb load a little too much or spill over, if you take maybe an extra diuretic that actually flattens you out. So there's little things that you're really gambling. Your water intake, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, foods are thought on different areas, but it's that very fine area, because a lot of guys, a week out, they look great, and then they start tweaking by contest time. And as you know, they either, peak properly or they shit the bed,
Yeah, exactly. Or you look better 2 weeks after,
Exactly.
I could tell, like I don't know where I was. I woke up and I thought, oh shit. I could tell before I even looked in the mirror. I felt it in bed. I said, I just hit my peak 2 weeks after the show. Oh, I was in Belgium. Yeah. I was competing at the Worlds there, and I decided to get ready for that show 2 weeks. I decided 2 weeks too late because I was wondering whether I should do that. I was going through a lot of personal problems with my marriage and all this. It was all unraveling at that point in my life, and I started 2 weeks later. Yeah, and then so that 2 weeks showed up 2 weeks after the show, because 2 weeks after the show I was ready.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, shit.
It's so upsetting, yeah. That's like I was going to compete earlier. Actually, this month I was going to compete, but my physique was a few weeks behind. But like I know at this point, I was like, hey, let me push it, because you won't put the best product out. I'm not here for a participation trophy.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing about that is what I've learned about peaking is that, and I think this happened with most of the athletes, it's really hard to hit that ultimate peak. But these guys, like the Dorian Yates of the world, they're good enough even when they're not at their very best, and they're good enough to win.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, if they just get into that, that 72-hour, 4-day window, they're fine.
So they're just good enough to do that. Because as you know, it's so tricky when you get to that point. I was talking about it in a post that I did yesterday on Instagram. It's like you can see your body change in minutes virtually when you take, in that last week, you take sodium away or add it or take water away. You just see your body just changing right before your eyes, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's bizarre. That's like even my last show. I remember my trainer the night before, I sent pictures to her, and she's like, "You're looking flat. Go out and have a cheeseburger and fries to fill up." And
how hard is that to do?
Yeah, and then the next morning, I sent her pictures 4:30 in the morning, and she's like, "You're still looking flat. Go have pancakes and sausage." Oh! but it almost ruined, the anticipation of the cheat meal afterwards.
I
Because
know. I know.
Fill me up, but it ended up working in my favor, fill me up real good.
So. It's so counterintuitive. It scared me. I think I worked this hard.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I had like 2 crap meals back to back, and that's what I was worried about, just spilling over almost. But it just peaked perfectly,
Yeah, that is we all have our stories when it comes to the bodybuilding and the shows and all that kind of stuff, don't we? Yeah, you look good right now, by the way. You look pretty full.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Do you mind doing like a double bicep for me?
Yeah, I can do it.
Oh yeah, you look good, man. How much you weigh?
Right now I'm about 204.
204. Yes. And how far out are you?
10 weeks right now.
10 weeks. Oh yeah, you're in good shape.
And then in my weight cap for my division for class physique for my height is 197.
Yeah.
So I'm in, knocking a door, and definitely the obliques are coming in right now.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like that. So,
yeah. What's the last? We all have this last part that comes in. What's your last parts to come in?
Usually the last part for me is actually the bicep peaks and stuff like that.
Is that right?
For some reason, that's because I have the long head biceps like that. So, but like, it's crazy. My obliques, they come in right off the bat. Like it says, usually it lasts for most people, but I'm just genetically gifted with the obliques and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also like the small of the back, they get that little back fat.
Yeah.
That's one of the nice things to go on me as well.
Mine was the inside of my leg, right there near the knee.
Okay,
like the hamstring area, but at the bottom there.
Yeah,
that was the last part that came. That and my abs at the very bottom. Last part drove me nuts. That always came in, but it was always at the very end.
Yeah, and that's what usually goes for most of them is the last part, the abs.
Yeah.
Yes, my abs come in a lot quicker once I start dieting. But
isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how we're all humans, but we're all we're kind of the same a lot, but we're all very different that way, aren't we?
No, we are. And then it seems like even with the shoulders too, like, that comes in, like now they're coming in real good with the stridations and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious to know, I was going to ask you it sooner. Bam Bam. Okay. Tell me about Bam Bam. How'd you get that name?
Well, Bam Bam was like, when I was younger, I was always a strong kid. And then, being blonde hair and little, have this crazy strength. And then when I was in the Marines, I used to have the crazy strength, feats of strength and stuff like that. I always do a lot of pull-ups. And then I remember one time I was in Algeria. I was working at the embassy there as a young Marine. And they had some Navy SEALs there. And as a young Marine, you look up to these guys. These were SEAL Team 6. They're working out in the gym. And then I remember I was pretty big at that point. And then they were like doing curls in there. And they looked at me and they said, "Hey, Bam Bam, we're doing Marine legs, except for you. You're a big guy." And then he had the audacity to challenge me to a pull-up contest. So we just got it, went head-to-head, and he was phenomenal shape as well. He ended up doing 24, and I ended up doing 28 strict dead hangs.
Nice.
And so that name stuck with me just because I had just this phenomenal strength as a younger kid, and then it just stuck with me from then on out.
I was going to ask you if it stuck. It sounds like, I thought the fact that you put it in parentheses, there was something to that. So it probably stuck. So I was right.
Yeah, and even as an adult at work, they call me Bam Bam.
Bam Bam. There you go. Nice to know. I was a
break glass in case of war type guy.
Yeah. Mine was a Portuguese powerhouse. I'm Portuguese.
Okay, yeah.
I was pretty strong, so that was pretty cool. I like that. But anyway, listen, we're going to wind this thing up, but I know you said that you're sort of the next step for you. You think you want to open up a gym. Are you really, is that a stated goal or is it more of a wish list?
No, it's a stated goal because the one thing is, as you know, Leo, you go through life. I've been through a lot of different conflicts. I've spent over a decade in war zones, high threat areas, cheated death one too many times.
Right. I can imagine.
And I appreciate everything because it really made me value life and your family, friends, and everything. But, embrace your true passion. I always wanted to open a gym. And then back in the day in Jersey growing up, I just missed the old steel clanging. Like you said, back in the 80s where the guys just slinging a steel and just helping people. I enjoy helping people, getting them motivated. And then even now at work, like I write diets, nutrition plans for people for free because I just enjoy helping people, And so it's not just a wish list. It will happen,
I like that. Something, I can tell, I'm very drawn to people that have passion. I can feel you. I feel people like that. And I can sense that in you. And one of the things, I'm a little bit older than you are, and I took a leap of faith way back when in a town that I was living in there was no personal trainers in my town. And I promised myself, because I I shortchanged myself in my athletic career.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got hurt and I just thought, maybe this is a sign.
You played a lot of football, right?
Yeah, and it haunted me for a long time. And the only way I could get over it was I promised myself, if I ever get something that gives me that buzz, that the athletics, because I wanted to be a pro football player,
Oh yeah.
I promised myself, no matter what, if I ever got a shot, a chance, I would not question that, and I would take it for all it's worth. And it happened to me when I was out of the game. I was out of college, and I was on a dairy business that I didn't like doing. I did it because in my culture, it's like the next generation gets that. And I was in it and I hated it. And I did my first competition. My friend, Russ Harrine, Dr. Harrine was the one who got me into that, right? After that show, I told myself, I've got that buzz that I've been missing. And I said, how can I make a living at it? And I said, personal training. No one was doing it, but it didn't matter. I had passion for it, and it was a stated goal, and my life has been different ever since then in a good way.
Yeah, and hearing your story, how you went to different health clubs, kind of marketing yourself. It shows a true passion for it. And it's funny when you mentioned earlier in the podcast how you don't realize what your intentions help other people. Like, you didn't know me from Adam back then, and you helped this kid in Vienna, Austria, young Marine, actually, get 27-inch legs, So.
Yeah, and this is why I'm telling you, you gave me a great compliment by saying it was an honor, but you have no idea that it's an honor for me to have you on here because of what we just said. So again, I appreciate all your support, and I wish you the best going forward.
No, I appreciate it, Leo. And then when I do open the gym, I'm going to invite you as a guest there. First
please, class. And don't hesitate to come back and talk about that. I'd like to just keep tracking this with you. So once you open that, let's talk about what's going on.
No, definitely. And then, definitely where the sport's going, because you want the sport to grow, and then you just want to pass on the generations to come,
Right on, man. Again, thank you very much for coming on, Bam Bam, and looking forward to seeing you again. And best of luck on your next show.
I deeply appreciate that, Leo.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, and it's a true honor.
Take care.
Take care, buddy.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.